Welcome to the first episode of At Home with Marltons, where we are going to be discussing everything pet related. We will be bringing in expert insights and heartwarming stories. I'm Kat Bester, the host, and I'm thrilled to have Jacqui Martheze from Woodrock Animal Rescue Centre with us. We'll be diving into the realities of pet adoption, the joys and the challenges, and everything in between. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Let's get started.
Thank you
Welcome,
so much
Jacqui.
for
It is
having us.
such a pleasure to have you on our first ever podcast. We were talking after before the show, and I was just saying, thank you so much for agreeing to go on this journey with us and be the first person to trust us enough to have this conversation with. So it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for having us. We are great supporters of Marltons. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. You really support the world of rescue, which is amazing, and we're very grateful.
Oh, thank you so much. Jacqui, you're such an interesting person, and Woodrock is such a complex, rich, diverse organization. So I think to kick things off, please tell me a little bit about yourself, where you come from, who are you, what has your journey been that has led you ultimately to be involved with Woodrock Animal Rescue Center?
So, Woodrock Animal Rescue was actually founded by my aunt and uncle over 40 years ago. And it's actually been a registered PBO and MPO for the last 40 years. And so I've always been involved with animals, and I've always been involved with rescue, and I've always loved animals. But obviously, more so over COVID, I became more entrenched in the world of rescue, and more involved, with animals in the rescue world, and also launching some other exciting ventures that we have done with Woodrock Animal Rescue, the Paws at Work, and obviously now the Cat Cafe, which I'm sure we'll go into in detail much later.
Yeah, I must say, I can't wait for the cat cafe. I think it's like such a genius idea that you have, and I'm sure it's going to be impactful not only for Woodrock, but also for so many Joburg residents and people working from home. And yeah, we'll certainly chat about the cat cafe in a little bit. It's and we obviously as Marltons Pet Care are quite involved and we know Woodrock Animal Rescue Centre quite intimately, but you don't only rescue dogs, or you rescue cats, which I think is not many centres focus on cats, but you also have pigs and geese and donkeys, etc. So what happens to all of the animals, the chickens and the donkeys that you rescue at the centre?
So first, I think it's very important for everyone to understand that we are pro-life. What does pro-life mean? Pro-life means that we won't euthanize for space. We won't euthanize, because an animal's got behavior problems. We believe that every animal, has an opportunity to be in this world and on this earth. So I would definitely say that part of our rescue center is actually it's a lifestyle that some animals get to live the rest of their lives, and they become very much of the
Yeah.
Woodrock family. So every animal that is on the Woodrock Animal Rescue property has been sterilized, they're vaccinated, they're dewormed, they're microchipped, which is amazing. Okay, I'm not quite sure that our chickens are microchipped, but we rescue animals from all walks of life. We have got cats. We've got the most amazing cattery. We've got dogs, of course. We have donkeys. We've got one horse named Breeze. We've got part of our donkeys is Madame Mussy, who is really a highlight of Woodrock Animal Rescue. I'd actually go as far as to say she's one of our influencers. We have geese, we have ducks, we have bunnies, we have pigs. The pigs are a huge part of Woodrock Animal Rescue. We have got a little pygmy goat who's just joined our family. We have got a normal goat,
Amazing.
Billy, and we've got cows. We've got a bull. So yeah, we've got loads and loads of animals, and we try to say no where possible. But of course, we are self-funded, and obviously with the support of the public, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we don't get any government support. So we obviously are limited as far as capacity and space and staff, because it's a
Yeah.
very delicate way of managing and making sure that we're not overwhelming the system and overwhelming the land and overwhelming the space and overwhelming our staff. It's a really big thing. And that's the only way to ensure that every animal there has a quality of life. I mean, being pro-life, we even have some dogs, we call them long lifers. So they can't be rehomed for whatever reason. So they live with Woodrock forever, but they have the most beautiful life. They walk every day and, they socialize with other dogs. They get a lot of interaction. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's Woodrock.
So your primary, it's a little anecdotal talking about all the other animals that you have, but your main focus is, of course, dogs and cats,
I think from
rescue
a
and
rescue
rehoming and
perspective. Yeah, well,
yeah,
Kat, I think from a rescue perspective, we predominantly, I mean, not rescue, from a rehoming perspective, we predominantly rehome dogs and cats the most. The bunnies that we've got, our bunny park, it's actually, it's these communities of people that, they buy a bunny for Easter, and then one bunny lands and two bunny, and then another neighbor buys bunny, and they land up being 55 bunnies and 103 bunnies. And
the
so
problem.
we really will go out and we'll trap them and we'll bring them back and we'll sterilize them, and then they'll join our bunny park. So our
Yeah.
bunnies aren't tame bunnies. They're bunnies that have just, it's not to their fault. They are just, they've landed up overbreeding.
Mm.
And so we don't really rehome the bunnies. The pigs have come from situations. They've all got a story. So they've all actually come from homes, and they're pretty tame, actually. I mean, some of them come running when they hear a human voice. So we don't really, we're very particular about rehoming any of our, I'm going to call them farm animals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it's interesting you bring up the bunny story and how people end up, going home with one bunny and all of a sudden they have 50. My daughter's best friend lives down the road from us, and we went to visit the first time a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, "Oh, cute, you've got bunnies." And she's like, "No, no, no, we got three initially." And then she opens the back door, and like literally, it's like a kegel, like uh, a harem of bunnies. There's like 37 bunnies. 2 or 3 years later, that's now living in their backyard, and it's like something to approach with caution when you bring in bunnies, because they do breed like rabbits, and I think often people aren't really prepared for what that fallout is, and then what do you do all of a sudden if you've got 37 bunnies from the three that you initially brought home. But I want to actually maybe just also dive in a little bit on cat adoptions. There's a lot of focus on dog adoptions. There are quite a few organizations that are doing wonderful work around dog adoptions. I think in general, pet owners are well well attuned and very familiar with dog adoptions, but cat adoptions is something that I definitely don't see done as much. How is adopting a cat different from adopting dogs, or is it just it's the same kind of, you're bringing in an adopted pet, or is there some differences in terms of cat versus dog adoptions?
Well, I think it's important to take note that an organization that has cats that are up for adoptions, they've got to be very particular, because cats get sick and they get violently sick and they die, and they can get sick, they can be perfect one minute and the next minute they're really, really sick. So I think it's imperative to go to an organization that is well versed and understands cats in their whole entirety. I mean, cats, when they come into us, when we get cats in whatever situations that we get cats from, we've got a quarantine area, we've got an area that's only for kittens, an area that's only for teens, an area that's for the adults. So it's you've got to understand what to look out for with cats. You've got to understand that you can't mix your teens and your adults and your kittens together. You're looking for disaster. Also, if you get a virus in your cattery, it can be a real problem, because it spreads like absolute fire. So I think it's very important that when you are adopting a cat, to make sure that you go into an organization that is well versed and understands cats. I mean, FIV, feline AIDS, and feline
Mm,
leukemia is very prevalent in cats, and people don't know. And you can test a kitten, and it can actually stay dormant until they're slightly older. And it's these are all things that have, people have got to be cognizant on. Another part of that, which I think isn't spoken about at all, which is really upsetting for me, is the feral cat community. I mean, we've got a feral cat
yeah.
community at Woodrock Animal Rescue as well. Those cats, to tame them in general, I'm generalizing here, it's very difficult. I mean, that being said, I've got a
Mm,
feral kitten who's now a cat in my home, who's lovable and affectionate and everything else. But you know, feral cats, they're very, very hard to tame, and they live a very specific kind of lifestyle. And you get feral cat feeders, but these cats become very dependent on the system. So often I'll get a call. Oh, there's a cat. I'm at a shopping center, and there's a cat. That's busy. Rummaging around, or I'm at McDonald's and I see a cat in the drain. And the best thing is to actually leave those cats alone, because they're part of a community. They won't cope in a normal environment. But you will notice if their ear is clipped, then you will notice that is an indication that they are being looked after by a feral feeder of sorts. So they're actually watching out that
Oh,
community of cats,
interesting.
and they're trapping. They're watching if any new cats come in. They trap them. They then sterilize them, just like bunnies. They breed like crazy, and they will then mark their ear. So in
Okay.
order just to so that everyone kind of knows who those cats belong to.
Yeah.
But yeah, cat adoptions, we work with very much like dog adoptions as we're at Woodrock Animal Rescue. So we want to make sure that it's the right family for the animal. At the end of the day, we are their voice. Cats, as far as pets are concerned, I think are easier animals than dogs because they're very independent. But yeah, they also change like dogs. They settle in a home and an
Mm,
environment. They also need a settling period. I think the biggest thing about any form of adoption or bringing any animal into your home is expectation versus reality. What is your
mm,
expectation of
mm,
bringing the
mm.
animal in, and what is the actual reality of it?
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, I can firsthand attest to the the hygiene and overall sanitation, involved at the Woodrock cattery, because you've got to go through that little station. We've got to spray down your feet to make sure that you don't track diseases in and out from the cattery versus the rest of the farm animals and the dogs. So I think it's an important thing that you've just highlighted, that potential cat adopters should look out for good practice in terms of what's out there. And like I said, I can personally, you know, I can personally vouch for the level of care that is taken at the Woodrock Centre when it comes to taking care of your cats. And I think you've touched on at the end there on a very important piece about the expectation of adoption. And I think this was one of the main reasons why I reached out to you, was to have a little bit of a adoption conversation, but in a different light. As you know, I adopted a Dachshund from Woodrock last year, and the experience really wasn't what I had built up in my own mind in terms of what this was going to be. And, I was very aware of adoption. I recently lost a senior dog that I had, and I was really wanting to get another Dachshund. And Jasper was like, just completely stole my heart. And there's conversations around it, there's awareness about it, but perhaps not a conversation to really talk, or the conversation not had enough to talk about what is it that you need to expect, and what can happen, and what is normal and what is not normal, and what do you do, and how do you make this adoption process successful. I certainly struggled in the beginning with connection and bonding with Jasper, because all of our dogs were we got them as puppies, so it was the first time that I brought a young adult dog into our household. And Jasper had a lot of adjustment issues settling into the family. And what do you think are some of the things people sometimes overlook or misunderstand about pet adoption?
So I think right from the beginning is, I think that people need to, a lot of people rush into adoption. So they see a cute little fluffy puppy and it's, oh, I need that puppy. I've got to have the puppy. But they haven't really thought about, where is the family in that moment? What is your lifestyle like? Do you work all day? Have you got are you pregnant and about to give birth to a baby? Is there a man that's in and out of your life? All these how old are your children? What is their lifestyle like? Do you have a domestic? Does the domestic actually know about animals or like animals, or is she fearful of animals? So I think that sometimes the problem is that people rush into adoptions. So our adoption process is quite stringent. So we start off with an application, and people will interact with the animal, etc. And once they've done an application, if they've got a dog, another animal, we will do the meet and greet then with the dog. If they've got a cat, we'll cat test on our end. But then we've got a huge adoption team, and there are about 8 or 9 of us that sit every single Monday. We go through every application to make sure, and that's where we're looking at things. So we're looking at the home environment, who has access to your house, how old are your children, is there someone at home during the day, what are your working hours like, do you have other pets, so do you have an open pool, we look at where's your expectation for your animal to sleep, are your other animals sterilized. These are all things that we're trying to do to mitigate the initial interaction or the initial bringing your animal into your home. And then once we've actually sat with the team and gone through that process, a home checker will then go to the home. And this is where we find it very valuable, because if it's a new family that haven't had an animal before, they'll spend time with them. People think they're doing a home check, they're going to check, are my dishes dirty? Is my bed made? We don't care about that. We want to make sure, is it a safe environment for that particular animal? And I think that the home check, it starts with the home checker kind of also educating you in your own home, in your own environment, putting things into perspective. And sometimes people then contact us and say, you know what, actually, after meeting with I don't know if we're ready for a pet, or we don't know if we're ready to actually get an animal at this stage. So I think that's an important part of it. And then we'll put the pieces together at the end and see if it is the right home and if they are ready. But I think just from expectation perspective, as which we touched on previously, I think in people's head, as you said, you think you're going to bring home this gorgeous little doggy, puppy, adult, whatever it is, and you're going to immediately connect with it and love it, and it's just going to slot into your home and your lifestyle. And that's not really what happens, because even if you get a puppy or an adult, they still need time. So there's a magic number. The number is 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. And it can take them all that time period for your home and for them to settle into routine and know, hold on, this is my home, I'm here to stay. This is my structure. This is how things are happening. So I think the very first thing is the expectation. And then also is that the family need to be on board, because especially if you've got existing animals, you need to understand, whoever comes in last, you're always going to, you're going to give it more attention. You're going to feel sorry for it. It's not as chunky as yours. It's not as disciplined as yours. It's not used to sleeping in a bed like yours. And I think it's very important to for the family to agree on what things will you allow and what things won't you allow. As a family, will you allow them to lie on the couch, or will you not allow them on the furniture? Are they allowed to sleep in the bed, or they have to sleep in a basket in the kitchen, or whatever it may be? So I think all these things prior to the build-up of actually getting an animal into your home are very important things.
Yeah, and can I tell you honestly, Jacqui, and I don't think that I can only speak from my own experience, right? So I can tell you all the things that we did not do right. And I think if we had a different approach to the process, we would have possibly had a easier time. We wouldn't have adjusted easier, and everyone would have been happier easier. But I think we would have found the journey easier in terms of prepping ourselves properly. So the first thing I did wrong was I was at Woodrock for the Mandela Day last year. It was an impulse thing where I've just lost my dog. I saw this beautiful Jasper at the facility, and I'm like, I'm going to adopt the dog. So it was 100% an impulse decision from my end, and not really kind of thinking this through was my first thing that set me up later for a much harder journey, right? The second thing for me was the home visit that Woodrock did. There's a part of me that went, well, I have raised many dogs successfully before, and they were all happy. I'm not a bad person. Like, why do you want to come and look at my house, But instead, if I had used that opportunity to really engage with the home visit agent or person that came through and asked questions and really use that opportunity to make sure that I am equipping myself with as much as possible, I think that would have been a great help. And then the other thing we didn't do was we didn't have a conversation as a family about, rules and is he going to be on the couch? Is he not allowed on the couch? Is, who's going to be feeding him? How are we going to do the dog walks now? Are we going to let him go with the older dogs? Are we going to split them out so that they go separately? We had a conversation about, this beautiful dog and look at the picture and whatever, but it was so frivolous and almost kind of, top line. We didn't really have the proper conversation, and I don't think you mean it, and I certainly don't mean that this needs to be like this highly intellectual, deep conversation. But I think there are a couple of basic things that we as a family needed to discuss beforehand that at the end would have made our lives so much easier. And I think the biggest thing for me was not using that home visit to my advantage,
Mm.
and not having that conversation with my husband and my kids beforehand.
Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, I've been told before, well, I've brought up a baby. Of course I can bring up a puppy. But it's so different, and
Exactly.
and puppies and children, and I'm sure you did a sterling job with your kids, but dogs are different, and they can't talk and they can't tell you, okay, well, this is upsetting me or this is the problem. I think another thing as well is that if you do have animals, is to make sure that they're the right fit, especially if you bring an older dog in. A
Yeah.
puppy is a little bit different, but to also introduce them the right way. So a lot of people, they want to rush into it and they just want to act like happy family and everything's okay. It doesn't work like that. Your
Yeah.
your existing animal, remember their world has now been, knocked and turned around a bit, and they kind of say, hold on a second, who is this new kid on the block, and are they going to replace
Mm.
me? And so they themselves come with their own issues. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. So I think a really important thing is to introduce them the right way. And another thing, which I know it's quite difficult, is animals feed off of us. So if I'm feeling, and I see it all the time in our puppy training classes, when I see a family and they're watching their dog and they're like kind of, and their nerves, and you can see their body language, their dog is really mimicking their behavior. But when you're in a home, and I actually had someone call me yesterday, and she's adopted 2 dogs from Woodrock, and she's just taken in another one, and she's like, no, my dog's not getting on. And I said, but you're not allowing them, it's been like 2 days, you're not allowing them the opportunity
Yeah.
to engage with each other, and take them all for a walk. So it's on non-territorial ground, and treat them the same, and just take a deep breath and just walk, and give them all treats equally. And I would always start with the existing animals first, with feeding, with giving treats, with that kind of thing. But I'd expect the same behavior from all of them. So I wouldn't give the latest dog a treat unless he sits, if I'm asking him to sit, kind of thing. So I think all those little things do create some anxiety. And then I think another thing is children and children's ages. Are your children the age where they're ready to engage with an animal, and on what level as well? Because that also,
Yeah.
when kids are young and they get all hyped up and running around like crazy, can also hype up all the animals as well.
For me, two things that I would like to help other adoptive parents or future adoptive pet parents with. The first thing is I think the normalization of this adaptation process, right? That it's normal to, especially if you're rescuing, adopting a rescue for the first time, it's normal to struggle and to maybe not bond and be connected with that pet immediately. I think that's normal. The second part, and this is where I would really like to get some input and insight from your side, is to reach out and to not feel ashamed to say, I'm struggling or the pet is struggling, help me. So if someone adopts a dog or a cat from Woodrock, what can they do if they do struggle to help them through the process? Can they phone you? Is there a site or tips and tricks that you have available? What is the best thing for an adoptive pet parent to do when they struggle in those initial couple of weeks?
So there's 2 things. I just want to revert back to the first comment that you made, when you spoke about adoption. I think what's very important to put out there to our audience, because some people aren't adopting, some people are going to breeders, it's the reality of what happens. I think that people look at an animal and they look at their beauty. Some people, I mean, we get different people who look for different things. But I'm going to use like a French bulldog as an example. Is, someone will
Hmm.
say, oh, I'm so in love with that look, and they're so cute and they're so beautiful, and I want a Frenchie. And they might have done some research on a Frenchie, but at the end of the day, is that certain animals have got certain traits. And whether you
Yeah.
adopt, whether you purchase your dog, it doesn't mean that dog's going to have the personality of the look, if that makes sense. I'm not quite certain how
Yes,
to
exactly. Yeah. No,
say it, but
exactly.
a lot of people will say, oh, as I'm going back to the Frenchie. And I mean, we actually have a Frenchie in our Pause at Work program, which we can talk about later on. But French bulldogs aren't easy dogs. They're actually like their temperaments, they can be quite difficult dogs. They're needy. They need a lot of attention. They need, they also, from a health perspective, they suffer with health problems as well. So
Yeah.
I think that, yes, we're talking about rescue, but I'd like to just be the voice for all kind of animals that are out there. I think that
Yeah.
we
No,
have
you're right.
expectations of a look and think that that look is going to convert into a relationship with us having with the animal because it's the look that we wanted of the animal. And the other thing is that the personality, we assume that they've got that particular personality and it doesn't always, come out that way. And some animals, do better as only dogs, depending on how they're brought up, and some do better needing a friend. And I think all these things have to be taken into consideration. Another big element, which is a lot of people, they fight me on it, is sterilization. Are your existing animals sterilized? And by
Yeah.
having an unsterilized female, for example, in your home, and they're going to go on heat, it's going to drive the other dogs crazy, even if they sterilize. You're setting out the scent. So I think all those
Yeah.
there's so many attributes when adopting an animal that I think need to be taken into consideration and you need to look at. And then going back to your last question, so Woodrock Animal Rescue are always here. So first of all, in our agreement, it actually states that if you've got a problem, you need to come to us. If you can't look after your animal, you've got to come back to us. So ideally, I mean, in essence, the wording seems quite harsh, but it is with all really well-known organizations, SPCAs and other very well-known organizations, is the animal ultimately always belongs to the organization. So should you have a problem, you go
Yeah.
straight back to that organization. And, we have someone that checks up on all our animals 3-month period and then like a 5-month period to follow up and see how are you doing. We don't like to do it within the first couple of days because everybody's settling in the first couple of days. So we do follow up with all our clients and see how their homes are going. And then if they come back and they say they're having an issue with this or with that, obviously we even send out our personal behaviorist that we will pay for his service to come and assist you if it's something that we can't guide you with or help you with. But we are always available. From the second that animal goes home with you, we try and we sit down, we go through the details of the animal and how to look after them. And then, you also have people like yourself that you've adopted before. So you've got certain ideas and expectations of what the next one coming in should be. And then the other families that have never adopted before and they might have had, dogs growing up, but now they've got a family and they've got a partner and children and a very different dynamic. And now they want to get a dog. And it's very different. When you were living at home, mom and dad were cleaning up the poop and feeding the dogs and,
Exactly.
and setting the boundaries and routines. But now it's up to you. So we actually, my behaviorist, we're going to be doing courses for kids and for first time animal owners, animal people, first time
Yeah.
families that are going to be bringing animals, just to set the expectation, um,
Yeah.
for the family. But we are always available. And even if you have adopted from someone else, we are always happy to assist wherever we can with advice.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, right? Is that don't feel ashamed. Don't leave the problem until it gets to a point where you can't handle it. People that are in this industry, in this community, in the kind of work that you do, like yourselves, we genuinely and so we are so passionate about animals and about pets that it's not about shaming or telling you that you're doing things wrong. It's really there's a large community of people out there that only has the best interest of that pet and of your relationship in mind, that is willing to help and give advice and kind of like not don't try and work through it or think it's going to get better. You have to proactively work at getting your pet settled into your home, because at the end of the day, we're talking very like serious about lots of serious things here, but at the end of the day, the joy that that animal brings into your home and the value that that animal brings into your family far outweighs the effort, right, that it takes in the beginning, or the adjustments, or the changes that you have to make in your household. We live at Marltons, we live by saying like life is more meaningful when you share it with a pet. And I laugh because I never realized how stupid. Can I say that? My spaniels are, until we got Jasper. So we have a little dog door in our front door. But it's like an old school vintage. It's a wooden door. It's like a proper door for them to go through.
Yes.
So now in the winter, when I let them go out in the morning, I just unlatch the little wooden door for them. And the spaniels will sit there in front of that door, scratching the big door for hours, if it wasn't for Jasper, because Jasper very quickly like just nudges the door to see if it's open, and then he's in the door. And I was like, I really thought you two were like quite smart, but Jasper just taught me that you're not that smart.
It's so funny. But I think that you've hit something that's very, that's very important, I think, for the audience to understand. And I think it's got to do with life and with dogs. There's no shame in something not working out. And it could be something so tiny. It could be something so minuscule. We've got this massive rescue center and a million animals. And I tell you something, I myself have had to contact a behaviorist, walking my dogs
Yeah,
because I can't cope with them on a lead, so there's no shame in it, because there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect dog or a perfect life or a perfect anything. It's what you put into it. And,
mm,
and I think that's very much, I think, what it comes down to at the end of the day. What are you
yeah,
wanting to put in? Do you want your dog to sit and to lie down and to roll over? That's up to you. You've got to put in, as you said, you've got to put in the work and the effort in order to do it. And it happens quickly, but you've got to keep it up. But it all depends on what your expectation is as well, just to understand.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of dogs have got they carry they carry a tag with them. So pit bulls carry the tag that, oh, they're so aggressive and blah, blah, blah. I must tell you something, that when you have a pit bull and you treat it properly and you give it structure and routine and discipline, positive discipline, you can have the most amazing, amazing dog. And that's what I love about training, is that you teach your dog to become the dog that you want it to be. Not that I want it
yeah,
to be, or what your neighbor watches, whatever your dog is. It's the animal that fits into your home and fits into your family.
yeah. Well, is there like maybe a success story, or an adoption that just really stands out for you amongst the thousands that you have done over the years?
I must tell you, people ask me all the time. Sometimes, we really
I
deal with some
really,
some sad, horrible things, and then we'll sit at a meeting and we'll say, you know what, that's why we do what we do. And I've got a million stories to tell you, but I'm going to tell you a story about. Sina, I just spoke about a pit bull, and I got this pit bull. Actually, it was last year when it was going through the terrible phase with pit bulls they want trying to ban pit bulls in
yeah,
certain areas, etc. And in a very, very disadvantaged community, they had taken this puppy pit bull. She must have been about 5 months old, and they threw petrol on her and lit her on fire. And she was actually at another
oh,
rescue center. And I often go, we help all the other centers as much as we possibly can. If we have blankets and we've got enough, we'll pass on to those that need. Often some of the centers will contact us and say, can you help us with, rehoming these dogs, etc. And I happened to go to the center, and I saw her in the cage, and she was just, her skin was rotting. It was just too terrible. And I just couldn't leave her there. I was beside myself, and we actually had to phone our private vet to say, because she needed specific attention as a normal burn victim. Every day she had to be sedated, and her skin had to be scraped so that the new skin could grow out. So it was a process, and I needed to know that I had a vet that was able to do that. It cost me about 15,000 rand, but it was worth every single cent, and it can't put money to an animal's
yeah,
life. And we fetched her, and she went to our vet, and being a puppy and having people treat her like this. And I remember taking her to one of our pop-up adoption centers when she was recovered. I mean, she's obviously got her scars that tell her story, but she's been adopted by a family that adore her. I named her Princess Diana, and her name is still Diana. And she is loved and adored, and she is the most well-behaved animal, and she is gentle, and it just fascinates me. It shows me how pure and loyal animals are, because although she was so
yeah,
violently hurt and injured with humans, she totally didn't. It didn't matter to her. She still knew how to love people. She still knew how to be loyal to people, and she still created a home for a family, because I do believe animals
Mm.
turn your house into a home. They bring.
I 100%. I have this YouTuber that I follow. They recently relocated from the UK to the US, and their dogs they can only come later, and there was like a big quarantine process, whatever. And when Herbie and I can't remember the other dog's name now, but when they finally arrived in the US, um, she said, like, I cannot believe that was what was missing. My house didn't feel like a home. She's got two children, her husband's there with the young children, and she's like, but the moment those two lads came through that front door, she's like, now my home is complete. Like I get all emotional about it, because they do make a home for you when they're there. They're part of the family, right?
Absolutely, and they read you so well. I mean, they know when you're not feeling great, and they know when you're feeling down a bit, and they know when you're happy, and they want to share in your excitement. They're so empathetic, and they know how to read you better than you can read yourself. So yeah, they definitely
And I
do
think
that.
that's a nice segue into the Paws at Work in the cat cafe, right? Because animals and dogs and cats in particular, I think they do have this endless capacity for unconditional love, and no matter what their past traumas or experiences were, if they treat it right, they just have trust that they show to us as humans on a daily basis, and I think that's quite powerful. So tell me a little bit about Paws at Work, because it definitely has a deeper purpose to the overall work that you and the Woodrock Rescue Centre does. How did it all come about? What is it all about? Is it something that's available to any business or person who, tell me a little bit more about that.
So through COVID, actually, I think there was a larger note, or people saw mental health as a very important thing, and people started seeing mental wellness as something that we need to actually take care of. I'm of the middle-aged group, and a younger me it was taboo to have anxiety or to have ADHD or to suffer with a depression of sorts. It wasn't such a recognized thing. It's, whatever. I mean, I remember if I was upset, or my mom would say, suck it up, you're good, get on with it. And I've kind of, in
Yeah,
a way
yeah.
taken that.
Put your
And with
big girl panties on.
Put your big girl panties on and get on with it. The world's not waiting for you. What are you doing? Kind of thing. And I think
Yeah,
I've got kids that are 22 and 21, and I think that with their generation and the younger generation of today, they're very expressive in what they feel and how they feel. And it's quite amazing. And I think there are two parts to it. Some of it, everyone's suffering with anxiety and everyone's suffering with ADHD. Some of it's very, very real. And it's become so much more acceptable. And I myself, I mean, if it's stormy and my kids on the road, I'm like a bag of nerves. My anxiety levels are so high, and I can say it, and it's now acceptable. It wasn't quite acceptable in those days, but
yeah,
through COVID, I think that I noticed a lot of people were lonely, and people felt scared, and they felt these emotions that they were never allowed to feel before, and they could acknowledge that I'm actually feeling this. And some people couldn't acknowledge it, but they needed something or someone to feel safe and feel that it's okay, you've got this. And so through the COVID period, there was a lot of depression, and there was a child that actually committed suicide, and they kind of threw me over the edge as far as saying, hold on a second, we need to educate people on the value that animals add to your life from so many attributes. So the actual physical, scientific, proven elements. Dogs lower your blood pressure they can lower your blood pressure. They release your endorphins, and your serotonin levels increase. They settle your central nervous system with the touch. There is so many health attributes that they and values that they actually add to a human's life. And then even from a social perspective, a lot of people through COVID didn't know how to socialize, and they couldn't socialize. And then, being in South Africa, you were allowed to walk between certain hours, but it was different walking with a dog, because it allowed you to engage with other people on a different level and on a
yeah,
light level. All of a sudden, you didn't have to speak, oh my gosh, I'm coughing, or I'm scared, or I'm this or that. Oh, look how cute your dog is. And so even from a social perspective, and then a physical perspective is another layer, is that all of a sudden you've got to get out of bed. your animal needs you. It needs to be fed. It needs to go
Yeah.
outside. It needs that walk. So they add so much value to you, and hence Pause was formed. And I said, let's start out with the corporates, because I think in the world of corporates, going from COVID and now going back to work, you've got to put makeup on. You've got to, make sure that you're getting dressed. You're not just, everyone was on Zoom before, so as long as your top looked good, you could wear your slippers and pajama pants. You had to make
Exactly.
sure that your kids are being fed from school, and suppers being made, and your home's being run, and all these things, and how to engage with people for a full day of work. And a lot of people, I think, we're dealing with a lot of anxieties in the workplace. And I said, let's start off by taking animals. We've got 10 therapy dogs. They're real therapy dogs. They're rescue dogs. Of course, every one of them are rescue dogs. They all come with a story. They have therapy, their own therapy, actually, once a week, where they engage with a behaviorist. And we go into corporate. So any corporate, any organization, actually, we go to a retirement village once a month. Any organization with people is more than welcome to engage with us. And we take our 10 therapy dogs to your organization, and they don't bark. They walk in there, and they just give you what you need. They'll come and, they'll lie on your lap, and they'll look into your eyes, and everyone there smiles, because you feel like, I've got this. That they've made me feel that I'm okay. You're okay. You've got this.
Mm.
So it's been absolutely remarkable. And the feedback it's been audaciously successful for the workplace environment. So we are involved with quite a couple of corporates, and it can be a once-off thing, or it could be, an ongoing thing. And yeah, the value's been absolutely phenomenal. And they've actually seen, the corporates that we've been doing with have actually seen that the work productivity on those days that we're there is it's so much more impactful, and the staff are happier, and they're engaging with everyone. And in the workplace environment, on a social perspective, there's no hierarchy, because in work, wherever you go,
Yeah.
there's a hierarchy. There's the director, there's my boss,
Yeah.
there's the cleaner. But in that space, everybody's equal. Everyone is on the same level. There's no, no one's special. Everyone is special there. So it's quite unbelievable, and the networking that goes on. So it's been absolutely phenomenal. And then we stuck within the mental wellness space, because a lot of people you can't take cats around. It's cruel. To move
Yeah.
cats up and down, it's very stressful for them. And so we have just launched, well, we're in the process of launching the Woodrock Cat Cafe, which is going to be at Kalami Corner, and it is going to be open from today a week exactly for the public. And it's the exact same environment. So we've actually set up workstations so people can go and do work there. There's free Wi-Fi. We have done a partnership with the restaurant next door, so you can get your coffees and your samis or whatever you want to, salads, whatever you want to over there. And you can just work, and it's a very, very healthy, safe space where you actually feel relaxed. You've got, the cats will walk around and they just do their thing. And then obviously people can come and also obviously just engage with the cats. And then we're going to be doing team building there. We want to do reading hours with kids that they can come and sit and read to the cats. I've also got a phenomenal, we're not going to mention her name just yet. We'll release that later on. We'll do reading times where she'll come in and read to the kids.
Oh, amazing.
She's an amazing woman in the production world in South Africa. So we want to do that. We want to do pause and paint. We want to do, yoga classes there. We want to do stretch classes there. So really incorporating the wellness, the mental wellness element into all those avenues. And it's been good for Woodrock as well, because things are tight. People don't have money.
Yeah.
Lifestyles have changed, and so it's added an additional revenue stream for us, which has been great. Obviously,
Yeah.
all rescue animals, all of them, and it allows people to, and also people that can't have animals, so it allows them
Yeah.
time to come and engage with animals.
Exactly. And I think for me, Jackie, and when we spoke in the run up to the podcast episode, I said to you, like, that's the one thing that I admire so much about the Woodrock Animal Rescue Center is your entrepreneurship in taking your own destiny in your own hands. Obviously, donations are always important. It's impossible to do this kind of work as a self-funded organization, but how it speaks so much about how committed and passionate you guys are about what you're doing by realizing that you need to kind of be involved, be in control of your own destiny in some instances, and really actively look for income revenue opportunities so that you can sustain yourselves through good times and bad economic times and all of those things. And I think that for me just shows that you're doing it because it's really what's at your heart. And I was like, as you were talking around about the dogs and there's no hierarchy, I was like, it's like a new take on water cooler conversation. So instead of people going out for a smoke break or having a chat in the break room, there's a different level of interaction that happens with staff in the pause at work. So it's interesting that you mentioned that productivity is up during the times that the dogs are there at the corporate. The for people who would like to, or corporate organizations who would like to get the pause at work into their business, they can just phone the Woodrock Facility Center and then make a booking. It is something that is open to anyone. They can book based on availability and the service, and they can procure the service to their offices. Correct?
Yes, they can just email us at community@woodrockanimalrescue.co.za. What I'd like to just mention there, sorry, I'm just extending out slightly here, is you spoke about, Woodrock is made up of multiple pillars. I feel like I'm talking about an onion, you peel and you peel. We do
But I have to say, Woodrock is a little bit like that because there's just like community outreach and the pop-ups and the pet hotel, and there's so many layers of what you're doing, and you guys are like really, there's not a part within animal welfare that you're not involved in, right? It is multi-layered, absolutely.
we try, and it's such a there's such a balance. We've got to look at our country. We went to Battersea. We were invited to go to Battersea in the UK, and it's just a very different community there to versus here. And it was they won't understand our community and our demographic that we deal with in South Africa. So yes, we've got
Mm.
our adoptions, we've got our rescue. We go and we trap and we'll bring animals back, and there's all different forms of rescue. And it's so funny when I've got my volunteers and I'll say to them, what is rescue to you? And they'll come up with the most elaborate, form of beating, and that isn't always the only form of rescue. I mean, an old couple that pass away and the animals are just left in the house and no one's even noticed that they're there. That's another form of rescue. There are just so many different forms of rescue, but there's rescue, there's rehabilitation. So the rehabilitation, we've got behaviorist, we've got a physiotherapist who comes twice a week. They do hydrotherapy, they walk on treadmills, they do all TENS machines, all kinds of things. We've obviously got our pop-up adoptions, which is amazing, and we've got our thrift store, which is super cool. So people can either donate to the thrift store or they can come and shop there. And I tell you, people buy amazing stuff, Zara clothes with tags on still, and they dropping it off because now it's just sitting in the cupboard. And all of the money really filters down to where it's needed. So we've got a clinic, and
Yeah.
it's a sterilization clinic. It started off as a sterilization clinic, and it's now really in a phenomenal clinic where we do loads of different anything medical, veterinary. We've got full-time vet, we've got vet techs and AWAs. We've got also full supportive staff in the clinic, and the clinic is really a very needed service because we do our outreach every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we go to disadvantaged communities where we have to educate the people on, they love the animals. Their kind of love or expressing the love is different to ours, but it's all still love,
Mm.
and the animals are still used to the
Yeah.
environment, and then those animals will educate them and we'll take them back and we'll sterilize them, and then they go into our feeding scheme, so we feed over 500 animals a month. So yes, we need people, we need donations, we need the food donations, because these people are dependent on us, and
Yeah.
they create relationships with us. So when they have an animal that isn't feeling amazing, they're going to phone us, and we're going to go and fetch the animal and look after them, make sure that they're healthy. And these people love their animals. And we're busy with an amazing project at the moment called Get Me Off the Chain, because yet again, it goes back to education. A lot of these people, and it's not actually just disadvantaged communities. There are a lot of people within our suburbs, within the northern suburbs, within the residential areas, that aren't educated on why you should have your animal inside, or about adjusting their collars or their harnesses or their chains. And the Get Me Off the Chain is about showing them and educating people about putting the right size chain on them. We're not going to stop it. So all we can do is we can try and add value to make sure that the animals have the best
Yeah.
chance of being safe and of getting the attention and the care that they can get. And we're going to be doing big chains, running chains for dogs, where they can get to shelter. We've got a kennel sponsorship program, and we've got a kennel program where we collect kennels, and we will then drop them off at those homes, so the dogs then have shelter and they have, the food and the water, and they can move to their food and water. And so we've got so much that goes on. So our clinic is a beast. It's a huge thing. Sterilization, we're sterilizing on average 200 animals a month. And the impact of
Yeah.
that is just, it's absolutely amazing. Um,
Yeah.
because, and it will for many, many reasons. But one of the reasons is that there are not enough homes, there are not enough organizations to look after these animals. And
Yeah.
through this process, I mean, 90% of those animals land up in a kill facility and suffering because they can't. But I just want to give you a fun fact. From one unsterilized animal over a 6-year period, you can have 67,000 unwanted animals. And we've just had Mandela Day. So the number 67
What?
really stands out because, they have 12
Unbelievable.
puppies, and those puppies have how many puppies, and how often do they have puppies? So it's a big number that, I mean, I can't visualize it. So one
Yeah.
sterilization, the impact is immense. And that's why we're really particular about trying to keep up with the disadvantaged communities, with the education and with the sterilization.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a staggering number. Like I was looking at the website this morning, and that, your aim is to every month do 200 sterilizations a month through the clinic. And we all go, "Okay, yes, not wanting unwanted puppies, like we get that, but that is a staggering number. And I think that number, certainly as a pet parent, all my dogs are sterilized, but I'm going, that is the impact that I'm having by doing or not doing,
Yeah.
or not sterilizing my animals, because that's a massive problem. And, I was in Argentina many, many, many years ago, and they have a massive problem with dogs, and feral dogs, because of sterilization. And it's a huge problem in that country. And that's what happens when sterilization programs break down or aren't supported, because it can very quickly get out of hand, and it's actually a disservice, I think, to your animals and to the rest of the country, because it's a big knock-on effect that it has by not sterilizing it. I mean, that just certainly put a lot of things for me into perspective.
But Kat, there's also, I mean, sorry, I'm just adding in here, in the residential areas with an animal. So someone will say, well, they've got an unsterilized animal, but they're not going to breed with them. From a health perspective, do you know how many animals the females get ovarian and mammary cancer, and the males get testicular cancer? And it's prevalent. The numbers are high, and it's terrible. I mean, imagine a dog. A female women have got 2 breasts; they've got 6, and we've had
Oh
surgeries where we've
gosh,
had to
yeah.
remove glands, and you can actually only do half of them at a time because it's the entire abdomen, and it's painful, and it's so
Yeah,
prevent what is it saying, prevention is better than cure. So
yeah,
we
yeah.
really pro sterilization, even if it's not about the procreation, it's also just from the health aspect for
Health
your dogs
perspective, yeah.
in your residential areas.
No, no, absolutely. And I can tell you, like, I mean, there's so many benefits to sterilization. With our 2 spaniels, we got them from when they were puppies and had them sterilized within the first, I think, 6 or 8 months. I can't remember exactly, but we had them sterilized. And it helps with so many, like, behavioral things and all of those kind of things. There's so many benefits that just, at the end of the day, I think makes it a win-win for everyone, both for the animal, its health, behavior, and then overall not adding to the bigger problem of unsterilized animals out there. So I was like, what's that number again? How many thousands?
67,000. Just think of Mandela with the 67 minutes. 67,000. It is
Unbelievable.
absolutely unbelievable. It's really, really unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah,
Well,
so
I'm
it's
certainly very excited for the cat cafe that's going to come next week Tuesday, or next week Thursday. Sorry, you opening on the 25th of July, if I remember
So
correctly.
the 25th of July is just, it is for exclusive guests, but on the Friday,
Okay.
the 26th is going to be open to the public, and come and enjoy and, get a bit of time out, experience being with the cats, feed your mental health. We all need to feed our mental health, and yeah, come and enjoy it.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm gonna definitely be a regular at the cat cafe, because my husband's very allergic to cats, and me and my girls, we love cats. It was like our biggest dream is to have a cat. So we're definitely gonna be regulars and get our little kitty cat fix at the cat cafe, because like I think there's something very special in that, right? Just because you can't have a pet because of I don't know, maybe it's the landlord rules or affordability or whatever the case might be. Something like this is such a beautiful initiative and an opportunity for people to experience the love and affection we get from
And you
animals
giving back to
and
Woodrock
pets.
Animal Rescue, because all the money that is made there actually goes to assist with the sterilization program and with the running costs of Woodrock Animal Rescue, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's ticking
No,
lots of
yeah, it's like a
boxes.
triple feel good opportunity, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think so I want to thank you so much, Jacqui, for spending time with us. I know it was a little bit of a serious conversation around ownership and those kind of things, and I think it's not to put people off from having animals, but having a conversation around the reality of it, because we see those beautiful, lovely, TikTok videos of people in families enjoying their animals, and we see and we know the beauty of it, but it's still a living being that you're taking care of, and you need to make sure that you are ready for it. You know what you're getting yourself in for, and understand the seriousness and the responsibility that comes with it. So it's not to detract from the beauty of it, but we also need to we need to act in a responsible manner and understand what it takes to bring an animal into your home. And yeah, like I said earlier, not feel ashamed to ask for help when you struggle, because it's normal for things not always to work out the way that you envisioned. It's okay. There are lovely people out there that will help to get you
Absolutely.
and your adoptive pet to a
And
happy
it's a
place.
commitment. It isn't something just for today. It's a commitment. It really is a
Yeah,
commitment.
excellent. Yeah, no,
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much
100%.
for having me. We're very honored to do anything with Marltons. We adore your group. We adore your staff, and we're very grateful to be part of the Marltons group.
Oh, thank you so much, Jacqui. And thank you so much again for joining us for this episode. It's clear that Woodrock Animal Rescue is making such a big impact in the life of both the animals and the community that you guys are working in. To everyone who's going to be listening and joining in on this podcast, if you are considering adopting a pet or want to support this fantastic organization, be sure to check out Woodrock Animal Rescue on their website. And remember that every pet deserves a loving home, and that for every act of care makes a difference in the lives of those animals. So until next time, this is me, Kat from At Home with Marltons, wishing you and your furry friends a lovely day. And that's a wrap.